Getting through isolation times takes everything you've got. Having a laugh and a craft beer pint sure would help a lot. But you're stuck and you can't get away. Sometimes you've got to go where everybody shares your name, and they're always spelled the same. You wanna laugh and see eyes roll, where dad jokes are awful lame. You wanna go where everybody shares your name.
Hello and welcome to Virtual Beers with Mark. My name is Mark, and my awesome guest in the virtual studio with me today is Julie Strauss. Julie, welcome to Beers with Mark.
Mark, thank you. It's been so long since we've had beers together.
It is, and well, we've had some virtual beers together, but even longer since we've had real beers together. So
way too long. Mark, I am so sorry I didn't wear a Star Wars shirt or paraphernalia. I really feel like I let you down there.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. I'll make up for it. But so this is Virtual Beers with Mark. So we're gonna talk some beers, and we have special themed beers. I know you have access to, but I have a special theme that ties back to you, and is in tying with this. I want to talk about books because you're the coolest book nerd I know. And you've got an awesome podcast. So if you're watching this live, or even if you're not watching it live, hey, just leave comments. Just let us know, what are you drinking? What are you reading? I'm hoping that somewhere in the maybe drinking and reading. So I want to get started. So Julie, I think before we get to the beers, I think I need to talk about these really awesome books. So you wrote a book several years ago, which I absolutely adore. Can you talk a little bit about it? And I think I'm going to pop it up on the screen just so people can see it.
So that one is called PROSECCO HEART, and it is women's fiction, women's romantic fiction, and it is about, the main character is a sommelier, and she and her husband own a winery, and then she finds out he cheats on her, and then mayhem ensues, and it's a rom-com. And I was very extremely stuck in the middle of this book. And then you mentioned to me that you and Liz were working on a book about haunted breweries. And you said, hey, there's a haunted brewery near you. Can you check it out for me? And I thought, yeah, okay. And then I went in and had the most traumatic experience of my life. And we were not super close friends then. And I remember sending you this email, you and Liz, like, I get that drugs are free in Canada, but I have to pay for my Xanax, and that was cruel of you to do that to me. And so, but that said, it's a scary place, but the beer was phenomenal. And I was spurred into how to fix the book, like how to have a really fun chapter in the middle, which I put 2 characters named Mark and Liz in, because how could I resist that? And it's funny because it is far and away my reader's favorite chapter in that book. Far and away.
I was partial to it because it was set in a brewery. But what you did, so the name of the real place that I'm looking forward to getting to is Phantom Carriage Brewery?
Phantom Carriage Brewery, yes, in Los Angeles.
But what you did with it was something a little bit different.
Well, I called it the Skull Crusher because, I didn't have permission. They're super nice at Phantom Carriage, but I thought they might not want to show up in a book where this nutty woman is terrified in the brewery. So I changed the name a little bit and had her show up, and and there was a slasher movie being projected on the wall, which did happen to me when I went there, by the way, and it was terrifying. It's fine. It's fine.
But the theme is they do have skulls and a skeleton and like a lot of horror paraphernalia on the wall. So you called it Skull Crusher Brewery, and it is a hilarious. I have it highlighted here. It is a hilarious chapter in the book. Of course, I dropped my bookmark, so it disappear off screen. But so you have a beer from Phantom.
I have 4 beers.
Oh my God.
We did
We're
a
going to be
trip
here
up
all
there.
night. This will be awesome.
There's no way I'm drinking all of them. But I brought several because I just wanted to show you a little range of what they have.
Okay, I'm opening while you're going to sample something and talk about it. I'm going to open this other beer and I'll share what it is after you do your bit.
Okay, so when I went and picked up a selection, I got it's called the Conformist Classic Pilsner.
Oh,
that's for my husband.
See, it looks haunted.
Yep, probably is haunted. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Pilsner, so I'm not going to drink that one.
Joe likes Pilsner?
Yeah, that's his go-to. Okay, this one, of course, is called Sever the Arm. This is their crowler.
Oh my God, that's awesome. I love the art.
See, there's the information.
Oh,
hazy.
I love that they have a tombstone.
And it's clementines. It's got tastes of clementines, lemon, and dragon fruit, which I thought that's like up my alley.
Yeah.
And then what I really like that they do there, this is their Clovis. God, I'm sorry, I can't line this up right. Clovis Droop, it's called. And this is a stone fruit sour.
Oh.
Pretty low ABV, which is nice. Probably this is the one I should be drinking, given that it's still work hours here in California. But here's the one I'm drinking tonight. This one is called, same growler thing. This is called their Hybrid Moments.
Okay.
Imperial Brut IPA. Check out that ABV. I mean, my God.
Whoa. All right. By the end of this podcast, you're going to be a little tipsy.
A little bit. But here's the thing. Here's the reason I picked it out. Because this one is made with oyster shells. And a few weeks ago, you opened a beer on your beer tasting thing. And you had an oyster shell beer. And I thought that was the grossest thing I'd ever heard of in my life. And then I was messaging you and Liz about it. And Liz said, right, like the first night you guys went out, that was what you had.
Our first date, I ordered an oyster stout at the brewery we were at. And she remembered that. I didn't. And I checked the Untapped app and I went, yeah, the night we met, I did.
Sure enough. So I ordered it, even though I think it sounds so disgusting.
No, but it's not a stout. It's an IPA, right?
It's a Brut IPA. I don't know what Brut means in IPA. Do you?
I don't know. Maybe it just means it's tough. I honestly don't know. This beer guy that I am.
Also, Mark, since you are the beer guy, this is the other thing I don't know is I bought Joe a set of beer glasses. Yes. And I don't know which one you're supposed to use. Like I've got all these shapes.
Oh God, Brut.
Do you know which one you use for an IPA?
That's a Pilsner glass.
Okay.
Actually, IPA, the one you have, that can be for an IPA or Pilsner. The one you have in your hand with the little roundedness.
This one or this one?
That could well, actually, okay. So either or. I think the one on your right hand. You're right. Yeah, would be probably the best one for an IPA. I would say.
All right. So I didn't know. So I just grabbed them all. Okay, wait. 13%. I shouldn't fill this.
Oh, Julie, go for it. Come on.
Okay, am I supposed to just taste it and tell you what I think?
Yeah, tell me what it's what you think of it. You taste the oysters?
Do you know what? It's a little briny.
But yeah, the brine that does come with some saltiness, right?
Okay, it's quite boozy.
Well, 13.1%. Right?
Yeah. And it's a little bit overpowering the other flavors, I think. It's almost hot.
Really? Okay.
I feel like beer should not be this boozy, I don't think. What's normal ABV for beer? Do you know?
5 to 8. Well, for an IPA, it depends on if it's double or obviously. It could be anywhere from 4 to 6, maybe. So that's pretty hearty. That's a pretty hearty 13%.
Yeah. I like it. I don't love it.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Tell Liz I'm sorry. I'm trying.
That's fine. It's okay. You don't have to love every beer. Now I'm just going to pop up a few comments from some folks. So Alexis says watching Mark geek out about beer is so pure and entertaining. Thank you, Alexis.
That is so true.
Betsy says getting margarita ready.
That's my mom.
Oh, hey.
My mom.
Enjoy
Mom
your
loves
margarita.
it when I get drunk online. I make her so proud when I do
So
this.
proud.
She's like, honey, come look at what Julie's doing.
Now, what time zone is your mom in?
She's in mine. She lives really close
Okay,
to
so
me.
yeah, it's well time to start margaritas. 4 o'clock, right?
I guess. Sure. Why not?
Now, we did see Dale said, "Hey, what's up, guys?" from Self-Publishing with Dale. Maddie says, "Hey, Mark. Hey, Julie," and then even says, because I did ask people to leave this, reading Ben Aronovich's Rivers of London series. Do you know that series, Julie?
I've never heard of that. Maddie, what is it?
Oh, if she's still watching, maybe she can share a little bit. So
yeah.
Cool. So you wrote this awesome book that I absolutely love. Like, this is the opening. Tamitha Hamilton didn't mean to greet the mailman in the nude. Like, and it's a riot all the way through. I mean, it's a riot, but then you hate the one guy, and there's lots of really great moments in it. But I fell in love with that scene of Skull Crusher. So I had a novel that took me forever to finish writing called Fear and Longing in Los Angeles. And I'll pop that up on the screen, because, product placement. I will show, this is the original cover when I was first working on it originally during NaNoWriMo years ago. So I had something to go with, which is actually the moon from a friend of mine who was in LA who took the picture. And that was what I was going with when I was going.
Oh, nice.
The more literary feel I used to have. And then I realized, no, it's really more urban fantasy adventure. But what I did is I have Michael Andrews, my werewolf, who's not much of a drinker as a human, in LA. And I decided to have him go to Skull Crusher Brewing. And, and I actually have him go the same night, because mine's set in 2017. Yours isn't dated. So I just decided it's 2017. And there's a scene where Tabitha walks in and says to her friends, Mark and Liz, because I think Mark stands up, and the movie that's projecting, she goes, "Oh my God, there's a huge penis on your forehead." And then everyone looks at her, and it's this embarrassing moment. And then they like, shh, and they kind of down. I have Michael sitting at the far end of the bar when that happens, and he overhears Tabitha say the exact same thing. And I thought that would be
love
fun.
it.
So I did. I wrote Skull Crusher Brewing, and in the notes at the end, I talked about having beers with you and Joe when I was in LA.
Yes,
not at
so
Skull.
Fun. No, we didn't get to go there that night, but we will next time you come to California. We'll go.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote about another restaurant that you guys took me to when you took me to Venice Beach. I got to see Muscle Beach, which was really cool. Yeah, so that was kind of cool. So I had to incorporate that into the novel.
I love that you did, and that's such a fun scene.
Yeah,
I have a question. So when werewolves drink human blood, if the human is drunk, do they get drunk? Since Michael doesn't drink beer, what happens if you drink the blood of a drunk person?
Well, Michael doesn't drink human blood, so he's a good
werewolves in general
drink human blood. They would probably the alcohol would probably affect them somehow, I'm guessing.
You would think, right?
We'll have to explore that. Well, I mean, what happens is he just gets drunk really fast because he's having like 13.1%, and he's like, "Oh, this is neat. I like the flavor." And then he gets bombed, and then because then he can't fight the bad guys when he's drunk.
And you just wind up making bad choices, even as a werewolf.
Yeah, even as you do make some bad choices there. So what I'm drinking.
Yes, tell me.
Also an awesome connection to you because your oldest son, Aiden, who is in Colorado Springs, and I'm in Colorado Springs every February for Superstars writing seminars, and I met him 3 years ago. For the first time. I thought it was like, shit, he's moved away to college. He's on his own. Yeah. I'll go and buy the kid a meal, make sure make sure his mom knows he's being taken care of, that kind of thing. So Aiden meets me at this one bar. We hit it off immediately. What an amazing young man. And then he ends up proceeding to take me to a whole bunch of really cool places where he knows all the bartenders' names and he knows like the cocktails. And he's like, "Oh, Mark, I want you to try this drink and to try and it was just, we had a blast. I brought him a beer, which was made in Sudbury, Ontario from Stack Brewing. And it's called Puppers. And Puppers is the beer that they drank in the TV show Letterkenny. And Aiden was a huge fan. Now Puppers it's kind of like a plain lager that tastes like Bud.
Okay.
It's like a gateway entryway beer, craft beer, that because the
Okay.
audience is most likely going to be Budweiser or Coors drinkers. They're not going to want actual flavor in their beer. And so I was like, I warned him because I knew he was big on cocktails and different beers and stuff. So I'm like, okay, well, here's your puppers. So he was so excited to have a puppers, but I'm like, it's not a flavor to write home about because they made it for mass consumption. But he gave me this beer on not that year, but the last year I was in Colorado Springs, and it's from Treve Brewing Company, and it's called Crypt. Was it Crypt? Cosmic Crypt, and it's a pale ale, so it's in theme with the skulls and everything.
Yeah.
And I've been holding on to this beer for a special occasion, and so I thought, well, I'm going to enjoy. I brought it back from Colorado. It's been sitting in my fridge for a long time, so I thought I would try that in honor of you and Aiden.
Okay. Cheers.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow, it's really it's citrusy. There's a lot of I'm just looking at to see if there's any description. No, there's no description. So yeah, 5.6%, but it's got like it's really easy drinking, really mild, but it does have a lemony flavor to it almost.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not bad. I always worry with craft beer because I've had it for a long time because they typically don't keep because they don't really have.
Oh, right.
So, but that's really, really cool. So I'm going to pop up this comment. Alexa says, call to action is I'm reading Blend from Georgia Beers. Oh, Blend from Georgia Beers. Ironically, another wine romance.
I love a wine romance.
Cool.
Okay, since I did not love the oyster beer, tell Liz I'm sorry. But I'm going to try the Clovis Droop because I love their sours. Love them. They are so good at sours. So I'm going to taste this one instead. And this might be what I drink with you.
Okay. That sounds fun.
Plus, I mean, it's only 5.4%. I mean,
that's nothing. That's
like, that's what the water is in Canada, right?
It's something like that. Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, yeah. That's where it's at.
Yeah, because that's the one you knew
for
sure. Oh, my God. Yeah.
It's like fresh peaches.
Oh,
It's like peach baby food, but sharp. Oh, my God. It's so good. They're so good.
You said baby, and then you said sharp, and I thought you said baby shark, and then I got the earworm stuck in my head.
Yeah, sorry.
So I'm not going to drink all of this beer because I know Liz has had her eye on it in our fridge. Every time I was like, don't open that one beer. That's from Aiden. That's got to be for a special occasion.
Right. Oh, I'm sad he's not here to drink with us.
Okay. So what I was going to ask you about, I am going to open a different beer because I want to make sure Liz can have some of this. But I wanted you to talk about, you started a podcast. How long ago was that? Now?
Well, let's see. It was last June that I started.
Okay.
It's called the Best Book Ever Podcast.
Right.
And it is a podcast where I invite people, mostly writers, because most of my friends are writers, although it's open to everybody. And I really very much want it to be everybody as a guest on it. And I just ask people, what is your favorite book? And tell me why. And the purpose of it is just to hear that why is the really interesting thing to me, because we as book lovers, we already know books are great. And what's so fascinating to me is that a book that I would pick up and go, oh, this is garbage. And someone else would say to me, this book changed my life, or this book made me laugh. And I've had, we've all had that experience where we read a book that just hit us exactly right on an exact moment of our life. And then you try to tell people about it and they go, no, that doesn't sound like my kind of book at all. And that conversation to me is so fascinating. How did this affect you and why? And whether or not I like it is not the point. The point is learning this about you is so fascinating to me. So that's the heart of the podcast, is I just get to talk to people about why a specific book is so important to them. And I love it so much.
I love listening to it because even if it's a book that I don't think I would like and may never read, because I'm a slow reader. So I love listening to you talk books with people. It just, you're in your element. You're obviously having a good time, just enjoying the entire experience. But it begs me to ask you this question. What's the first book that you remember having that kind of impact where you went, oh, something new or some experience? Do you have a memory of the first, it may not have been the very first book, but when an early memory where you went, oh my God, books can do this?
Well, as a kid, it would have been either Charlotte's Web or Harriet the Spy. I had copies of those, just, you know how you are with when you're a kid, like they're just worn into, I still have them, and they're just worn into, almost nothing. Let's see. As an adult, there were moments in high school. I was blessed with really incredible high school English teachers, and my dad was a high school English teacher, so he had everything. And I remember there being times where I was reading a book and thinking, okay, Hemingway, Farewell to Arms. I remember thinking like, okay, I don't get what is the big deal about all these dumb macho men running around. And then my teacher explained, this stands for this, and this stands for this. And I remember this feeling of, wait, what? This is how books work? Like there's more going on than what's on the page. And it just blew my mind. And I was already a reader anyway, mainly because of my folks. And that just sort of opened up the world to me of, not only can it mean different things to different people, but it means different things than the writer even intended, which is so fascinating to me.
Well, I think what you've nailed is perfectly is that the authors created this book. They've created this. They've imagined things. They've put that into words. But then when it gets absorbed by someone else, it becomes their book, their experience. So it's simultaneously a way of connecting to people, but also of two unique silos of the same experience. It's such a magical thing.
I love that. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this is a weekly podcast, right?
It's a weekly podcast every Monday morning. And, I really try to reach out to all sorts of guests from all over the place. And I get to read some really interesting things. And some of them blow me away and some of them not so much. And that's okay. Because the interesting thing is, I actually like those conversations almost better when I get to say, please tell me why this is good, because I didn't get it. And then they get to tell me. And it always makes me go, I hadn't thought of it like that before. It doesn't mean I'm necessarily going to reread it, because most of the time I won't. But I love hearing that anyway.
But you appreciate that. I was just going to see if I could find a copy, because I have it on a shelf down here, but it's buried behind things. A book that you gave me at a brewery. It wasn't at a brewery that you gave it to me. You gave it to me in Austin at the Smarter Artist Summit, I think.
Yes, that's where it was. We started talking about it at a brewery.
We talked about it at a brewery. And then it was after that you gave it to me at the Smarter Artist Summit, I think. The timelines are blurry because we were drunk. No, but you... we were talking. We bonded over planes, trains, and automobiles, and there was four of us, four writers, just hanging out together at a brewery talking about that. You gave you had a Justin Trudeau scented candle for Liz, and I have this picture of you holding the candle and holding Howard's End.
Yes,
Howard's End is a meaningful novel to you.
It's my all-time favorite. So that one I read somewhere around 92 or 93. And it's one of those things that I can sort of explain academically, but I also can't really explain why I love it so much, because there's a lot of my history involved in it.
Right.
And it's so comforting to me, but also I reread it almost every year, and almost every time I reread it, I learn something new, and I think, oh, I should learn how to write like this. I should learn how to use imagery like this or something. But also it's very much a warm blankie of a book for me. When I'm sad or stressed out or feel like I can't handle life, you know, those times when life is so rough and you can't even, like, the thought of a new book is too stressful.
Right.
And that's the book I will go for. Is I just want a warm blanket of a book. It's this lush, beautiful English novel. And I feel the same way about the movie, by the way. And I don't usually feel that way about
Really?
movies made from books. They're usually awful. And I think the movie is gorgeous.
Wow. Are there any cases where the movie was better than the book that you've encountered?
I have one. Do you?
I've got one. Yeah, go for it.
Okay. I'll tell you mine. Mine is Hunger Games, which I did not. I thought the book was fine. I kind of didn't see the big deal.
The first one, right?
All three. I thought that about all three. I really did. Like, I thought they were fine. My kids were into them and I read them and I was kind of like, yeah, I don't really get the big deal. And then I saw the movie and I was all in. I thought the movies were great. I'm sort of alone in that thinking.
I thought the movies were well done. But I remember I was in bookstores when the very first Suzanne Collins novel, The Hunger Games, was the only one out. And it was like a sleeper bestseller because it was indie booksellers that were talking about it and sharing it. And it was kind of like this movement without a big publicity push. And I remember it reminded me by the time I was in a chain bookstore way years earlier when the first Harry Potter started to become big in Canada. Yeah. And it was like Philosopher's Stone, Sorcerer's Stone. Like there was that controversy because of the titles were too controversial. And I think by the second book was probably out by then. So it was like second or third book. So she had already gotten a bit of a following. And I remember that's how the Hunger Games felt because it started to hit, but the second book was just about to come out. Like after this long, slow build. And that was such a great experience.
For me, that was an experience of it had just been hyped too much for me. And everybody and all my kids' friends had said, this is the greatest. You're going to love it so much. And if I'd have found it without expectation, I'm sure I would have loved the books, the Hunger Games books. But I just went into it like, this is going to change my world. And I was like, yeah, it's fine. That's the one bad thing about talking a lot about the books that you love is an overhyped book or an overhyped movie never matches up to what the people you trust tell you.
Yeah, of course. You know? Yeah, so. It can. Although The Princess Bride, I didn't see The Princess Bride until later in life. And it had been hyped for a long time. And it lived up to every single expectation.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Yeah. And I still haven't read the book. I actually have the illustrated edition I bought for Liz.
Oh, good.
And I want to actually read it because I think you talked about it on your podcast. And that's when I put it on my to-read list now. I've got to see this.
It's so good. It's so good. And it lives up to the promise of, if you've only ever seen the movie, it lives up to the promise of the movie so well. Cause it's just like the movie, except so much more. And it's wonderful. And yes, I discussed it on the podcast with Claire Taylor, who you know very well.
Oh, that's right. That was Claire Taylor.
A brilliant satire and comedy writer. So
yeah. Oh yeah. If she were here, she'd be making us laugh. But she's probably on Clubhouse right now where she's hanging out a lot.
So, I guess so. That's where all the cool kids are hanging out these days. This is what I hear. I don't know.
That's what I've heard. So I have, so Die Hard was based on a novel called Nothing Lasts Forever by Roderick Thorpe, which also, you talked about that you talked about in your podcast that led me to listen to another podcast, I think.
Yes, there is another podcast. Yeah. Am I allowed to cuss on your
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
There's this podcast called Fuckboys of Literature.
That's what it was. Yes. That was a great episode where they talked about Nothing Lasts Forever.
Right. Yeah. Right. I think it's my favorite podcast title ever, but yes, they talked about that book and I immediately sent it to you because I didn't really get it because I hadn't read the book. I've seen the movie.
Yeah.
But so you
the
movie better than the book.
Related to that. So the book Die Hard, or the movie Die Hard, was based on Nothing Lasts Forever. I actually have a bit of a backstory that I'm going to explain with this old book I ordered from a used bookstore online. But it was the main character, Joe Leland, becomes John McClane because The first book featuring Joe Leland by Roderick Thorpe, the author, is called The Detective, and it's not a small book. Like this is like 600 pages. So The Detective was Joe Leland, and that became John McClane. But the reason that happened is because, according to the contract with the studio, Blue Eyes, Frank Sinatra, who's also an actor, he was in the movie The Detective, based on the novel. Contractually, when they went to release the sequel movie, they were obligated to offer the role of the main character for what became Die Hard to Frank Sinatra. But of course, by then, old Blue Eyes was kind of old.
Yeah.
And they offered it to this young guy from a TV show called Moonlighting, right? He had put out an album, like a blues album, like Bruno and the Beaters or whatever that was.
Right.
And so they had to change the name to John McClane, and the Die Hard. So a great movie based on a really great book. I've read Nothing Lasts Forever several times. It's a great book, but it's the sequel movie, Die Hard 2, takes place at the airport at Christmas time. And
I don't think I've ever seen that.
Really?
Sorry.
So it takes place a year later. John's back with his wife, Bonnie Yee, the actress Bonnie.
Yeah, with the curly hair.
Yeah, exactly. And she's on a plane back to, and I think they're in Washington, and he's picking her up at the airport for Christmas Eve, and it's kind of like, oh, a year later, how could the same thing happen to the same guy, and that kind of thing. And these terrorists take over the airport, etc. Now, that is based on a completely different novel called 66 Minutes by Walter Wager.
Okay.
And in that novel, it's a completely different character whose daughter is on the plane, and the terrorists take over. But the problem I had with that novel is it's written in an omniscient perspective.
Yeah.
Where the narration just flows everywhere all at once, and you're suddenly in this character's head, and then a second later you're in the other character's head.
Yeah.
And it's really disconcerting and hard to follow. And so the movie Die Hard 2 is like 1,000 times better than the novel it was inspired by, because you had character continuity that was kind of intriguing. And you also had obviously the slapstick, the humor of Bruce Willis doing the one-liners and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And even you cared for his wife more because you knew her from more than just, oh, it's a woman on a plane, and you had all this continuity. So from my perspective, that was a case where I think the movie was way better than the novel.
Yeah.
So
it's weird that they used a whole different book and a whole different author for the sequel. That's so strange.
I love that they did that. And even Die Hard 4 was based on a nonfiction article. Right, that was the one with the guy who used to play the "Hi, I'm a PC. Hi, I'm a Mac." That actor.
Oh,
the young geeky guy.
Yeah.
So that was based on.
I didn't know there were 4.
Yeah. Well, there's actually 6 movies. My son has had to watch all of them with me, of course. So that was a rite of passage for him. They're
not all Bruce Willis, though.
It's all Bruce Willis. Yeah, they even have his daughter in one as an adult, and then his son in another one. They get progressively worse. But I like John McClane. I want to follow him around.
Yeah.
So I have to add a couple comments. So Alexis says, "Fuck Boys of Literature" is the best podcast title I've ever heard.
Isn't it the best? I love it.
Obviously, Dale was laughing. And Miranda, who you've had on your show as well.
Miranda!
Watching Mark talk about Die Hard is also pure entertainment.
That's right.
Gotta have her back on your show to talk books again. That was a really fun conversation.
That was so good. Oh my God. Talk about a book bestie right off the bat.
Yeah, you guys really hit it off when it came to books. I've opened a different beer called Free Spirit. Free Spirit, it's a wheat beer with mango. And I don't know if you can see, but it's got this beautiful art. It's from Grain and Grit in Hamilton. I'm gonna try and block.
Oh, I can see the skull.
It's a skull. Oh, yeah, it's a skull with like ferns. It's like a planter.
Okay.
And they just released 2 new versions of this today, and I've got to put in my order to go and get some more. But this, Grain and Grit, great family-owned brewery in Hamilton, Ontario. Joe and Lindsay, great people. Love like their staff. They're all amazing people. I really miss going and drinking there. So now I just get curbside pickup. But
Is it close enough that you can just go and hang out, like, or is this a destination for you? Because Phantom Carriage is like I have to make a day of it. It's far enough away that
Yeah, it's a 45-minute drive to
yeah,
Hamilton from where I live.
same with
So
us.
yeah,
Yeah,
I usually have to. It's usually when I'm picking up Alexander or
yeah,
dropping him off. I usually arrange. So I put in my order at Grain and Grit, and then a few days later I'm in Hamilton and I swing by. Alexander's
perfect.
very used to all the breweries, and because I had my hernia surgery, I actually had to have him carry the box of beer because I wasn't allowed to lift anything. So it's kind of like,
Right. This is why we had kids. We got to put them to work in
yeah, put 'em to
situations
work.
like that, right?
Yeah.
Mark, I have a question for you. Do you only drink beers with skulls on the cans or bottles? It feels like every time you do this, there's something deathly. There's another one in an ice cream cone.
It's the Hokey Pokey stout. But you know what? No, but it really makes them taste better. I only stay. It's kind of funny. I realized there was when I was working at Chapters Indigo, which is kind of like Canada's Barnes and Noble years ago.
Yeah.
There were some consultants that came in from California, and they knew I liked beer, and they ended up bringing. It was like some these giant, back then they seemed like giant bottles, and one of them had the Grim Reaper Pale Ale and stuff like that, and I kept them because I was just like, I loved the art and the beer was amazing. I remember like we had a party at my house and a couple of my friends from work were all there, and we're all like with little glasses all because we all wanted to try it because it's this cool beer from California. And, yeah, but I do. Yeah, we actually do have a number of beers downstairs on the shelf that have skulls. Yeah,
it's your brand.
It is very much in brand with all the things that I do, apparently. So, yeah, but the wheat beer is nice. It's a good one.
Yeah. Fake mango can go either way, though, right? Like if it tastes like a good fresh mango, it's fantastic. But fake mango flavor is terrible. Is that one good?
Yeah, this is a good one. So they have a really great brewmaster there, and yeah, they do some like I don't think I've ever had a bad beer from them. Like they're
nice.
Yeah, it's funny. We went the first time I went there was on my birthday. I learned about them from the Winking Judge, which was my Cheers, my local place to go where I lived above that bar for several years. And they're closed down now, unfortunately. But and Alexander said to me, we were having dinner beside the Judge at a place called The Ship, which is still open. Great burgers, and they have great craft beer too. And he said, "Yeah, Dad, I was hoping to have my first beer there with you."
Oh,
I went,
oh God!
I mean, he has sipped beer.
But it's not the same.
Like Liz and the girls, and we're all together, and he's like, "No, I still don't like it, Dad." And so I was like, "Good, wait till you're 18." But I remember he said that, and he's 16 now, and he's like, "Yeah, like I guess because he had kind of almost grown up in the bar." With me, which sounds like I'm a bad father. But it's because he liked their wings and we love to play chess there because they had all the board games and stuff. That was
so it was educational, really.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. I mean, all the kids, all the regulars knew my son's name. But
you had to drive everyone home at the end of the night.
But no, I learned about Grain and Grit because Mary was the owner, and she's like, "Oh, Mark, we got this new beer from a new Hamilton brewery, Grain." So I tried the beer, and then it was on my birthday that Liz and I we were staying overnight because we were at a party at the Winking Judge, and so I was living in Waterloo at the time. So I got like a overnight, so we didn't have to drive. We went to the Winking Judge Beer Fest, and then kind of got polluted. But then the next day was my birthday. We went to Grain and Grit for the first time. And then just honestly, a stone's throw from Grain and Grit, you could be standing like on the patio and whip, or a Timbit, because Hamilton, Ontario is Tim Hortons Timbits. So like a little round donut hole, you might call them.
Okay.
You could throw one and hit Fairweather Brewing, which is just down the street. And they have never made a bad beer either. And they opened around the same time. So it's like, that is a beautiful neighborhood. I wish there were things like that in my neighborhood here.
Yeah. That does sound nice.
Yeah. So we have. I see. Alexis is saying you should maybe send a case of that wheat and mango cheesy with the office. Okay. You know what, Alexis? I'm so excited to get back to Oklahoma City. I will put some in my luggage and take some down with me when I come visit. Please let me visit in the summer.
I would think that this is a real downfall of these beer tastings that you have, is that everybody you know probably texts you right afterwards and says, "Hey, you need to hook me up with that one there for Christmas."
Yeah, send it. Yeah, and I've mailed some beers. It's really, really hard. What I'll often do is I'll often put some stuff in my luggage, checked luggage, wrap it up in socks and stuff like that, and take it. But
Well,
one of the things, I miss visiting all those breweries. That's one of my favorite things to do.
I
Which is why I
know.
had to create Mark's Tavern, so I could feel like I was going out into the world and hanging out at bars.
I know.
Apparently, that's what I do.
I was actually just thinking of that time we went to that brewery, the four of us that you were talking about when we first started talking about Howard's Inn. And do you remember, like, we were tasting everything? And do you remember, like, we were literally like, "Oh, this one's good, try it." And we were handing our glasses back and forth and like handing our plates to each other. Can you imagine? I look at it now and I think we were maniacs.
It's funny that, it's kind of like, we're just like, you and I knew each other.
Right.
But we didn't really, we started to get to know each other because I think we were both sitting in the back of our room at one of the panels. And I think you said something to me and said,
Yeah.
Kobo? Or something like that.
Yeah.
And then the other two people we were with.
Met. Yeah. Right.
Julie, you froze on me. I'm not sure if that's just on my
You
end.
froze and disappeared.
Oh, I froze. Oh, sorry.
Are you still there?
I missed what you just said. Could you repeat that?
Oh my God. Are you there? Can you hear me? No, you're not frozen.
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay, we're back again. I missed that. What did you just say? Who missed what?
I said, "Oh fuck," because you froze, and I thought, I'm not handling this on my own. Absolutely not.
Oh, you got this. You're fine. But that was funny when you look back at how cavalier we were about saliva. It's like, I don't care if there's backwash in this. I'm just going to drink it.
What's the worst that could happen? Little did we know. And it was. Remember, we were out on that patio and it was crowded, and I mean, we just lived like we had no cares 3 years ago.
We went to get. So we would take turns going up and getting beer for everyone, right? And like, here, let's try this. And then I think we could bring in food. So I think we had gone to get a pizza from a place just down the street.
Yeah.
And it was just this, and it was an open outdoor sort of, it was really, really awesome.
Yeah, I don't remember the name of that brewery either. We should look that up. That was good.
I checked in on Untapped, so I know I can probably find it if I check the dates.
Oh, perfect.
So that was for California Dreamin'. That was the conference, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that because that was that was one of the ones where I had a really great hotel room with the suite in the fridge.
Oh, nice.
And I went on my first day there, and I went across to, it was either Target or one of the big stores that had like a giant beer selection, and I went, because we don't have that kind of selection here.
Okay, gotcha.
And I filled my fridge with way too many beers because I wasn't expecting to get to know people and hang out, and usually the hotel bars don't have a big selection. So I'll come back to my room and I'll just do some work and I will drink all the great craft beer. So I ended up going out with you guys and having so much fun that I was like, oh man, I have all these beers I have to drink.
Uh-oh.
So I managed to pack some because I usually Liz would like this, so I'll take this one back and this one I'll drink here.
Perfect.
So that was a challenge. I had so much fun with you guys that I didn't drink all my beer in my hotel room.
Sorry.
I know, it's such a horrible thing. Well, we've been chatting for 44 minutes, and doesn't it feel like just hanging out? We're just having a beer. right?
This is what happens when we just hang out and drink beers. You know, I'm gonna have one more.
This is so cool. I'm so glad we got a chance to do it. I'm so honored. I got to write one of your characters into into a short scene in my book as a little Easter egg for people.
Listen, the greatest thing for me is that you and Liz let me put you in my book, because like I sent you that chapter in advance and I was like, listen, this is goofy. I'm going to have the character say, Mark, there's a penis on your head. Is this okay? And you and Liz were so cool about it. And I knew right away, like as soon as you both said you liked it, I went, these are my people. I love these people.
I think I remember I had it in an email from you, and Liz was driving. I think we were on our way to Ottawa. So she was driving. I was in the passenger seat, and I got the email from you. And then I read it aloud to her, and cause it's like, what do you think? And she's laughing the whole time. So it was like, I remember that because I was like, wow, this is really hilarious. I love this. I can't wait to read the rest of the book. So that was
well, I'm so grateful to you both for letting me do that.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And for sending me there in the first place. I can tell you this, on my own, first of all, I probably wouldn't have gone. But second of all, on my own, if I'd have walked in and seen that slasher movie up on the wall, I would have gone, nope, nope, absolutely not.
And there is a line. There's a line that I recorded. So you had the bouncer, because Tabitha tries to hit on the bouncer at a certain point, right? This big, funky, kind of the Rock kind of looking guy.
Yeah.
And welcome to Skull Crusher Brewery. Don't puke on the floor, is what he says to her. And she's like, what, you know me? And I made sure when Michael Andrews walks in, he has, like, because Michael Andrews tries to make a joke about Canadian Tire money, and the guy doesn't get it because he's American. Yeah. And then he also says, welcome to Skull Crusher Brewery. And he says 2 rules, like no ties, whatever, and don't puke on the floor. Because I was like, I had to have a call back to that, to that sort of line. But that was kind of fun.
I have to say, for anybody watching who is a California person, the Phantom Carriage, which I base this on, is far less terrifying than I made it out to be in the book. And it is far less terrifying than I make it out to be in person. I'm just a big, giant weenie. And it's really, you should go. If you're in California, you should go. The beer is fantastic.
And I am going to hold you to my next time I come to LA, come down to your neck of the woods. Yeah, I want to go visit Phantom Carriage. I've been following them online. I sent them. I ordered a copy of your book and my book and said, hey, and I highlighted in the note that said, this page you're mentioned. It's called Skull Crusher, but you're mentioned. In my book, I actually mentioned the real name in the notes at the end.
Yeah, I did that too.
Which is kind of like, that's kind of cool. So Julie, but thank you so much. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you, Mark. This was a blast. I never get to drink during daylight hours. I feel very saucy today.
Well, I'm glad that being 3 hours difference made that possible for you.
Yes, it's gonna be an interesting dinner this evening, I think.
I'm sure it will be. So, in honor of drinking, and particularly normally virtual beers with Mark, I'm going to close with another video that is a short dad joke video that's called "The Things We Missed Most." Julie, thanks again for
thank you, Mark,
and everyone have a wonderful night. Cheers.
Bye.
You know what I'm most looking forward to hearing again? What's that? The sound of the crowd cheering as the NHL players go skating back out onto the ice. Yeah, me too. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, same here. As for me, I'm looking forward to going back into a crowded Starbucks and hearing someone call my name out incorrectly. Yeah, me too. You know what I'm most looking forward to hearing? No? What? Hey Mark, want to start a tab?